Right, today we're going to talk about ghost pedaling, why you end up ghost pedaling, how to resolve it, and how much that's going to cost. And this works across virtually every bike out there, 20-inch wheel especially. So let's get into it. Right, so one of the annoying things about e-bikes, and I wish the Chinese manufacturers would cotton on to, in fact all of them, it's not just Engwe, it's all of them, ghost pedaling. And it's quite unnecessary because there's an easy resolve to it that can be built in at the factory just for a few quid more. When you have to do it yourself, it costs a lot more. So remember these numbers: 11, 34, 56. 11, 34, 56. So let's start with the 1134 part of it. Invariably on your bike, you've got a 1428 freewheel. And it's quite a tight space for pedaling range. And one of the things it does is it constricts that range. But before we get into that, I'm going to get onto your chain ring, the 56 part of this equation. So you've probably got a 44 or 46 chain ring on your bike. This again is quite constrictive when it comes to pedaling. It gives you a certain range, and then obviously you run out of range with those cogs, and then you're ghost pedaling because you can't keep up with the pedaling with the motor. If you expand that from a 46 tooth to a 56 tooth chain ring, you're adding 10 teeth, and those 10 teeth make a difference. So what does a bigger chain ring do? Well, the bigger the chain ring, the less you have to pedal at the front to make that back wheel go round. So what does that mean? So what does a 56 tooth do that a 46 doesn't? Well, the mechanics of this, or the geometry of this, is you can pedal less to make the back wheel go round a full revolution. So a revolution of a 56 tooth will give you more revolution at the back wheel per turn. Does that make sense? Within that, you're pedaling less at the front to make that rear wheel go round. So now this brings us to the freewheel. Now, be it a 7 or an 8 speed freewheel that you've got on there, and don't confuse a freewheel with a cassette. They're two different things. They work differently, or they fit differently. They actually do the same thing, they just fit differently. And Engwe uses a freewheel. Most e-bikes will use a freewheel. Depending on whether you've got a 7 speed or 8 speed, what you need to do is swap the original one round, which is probably something like 1428, to an 1134. And what that does, it gives you a bigger range of drive at the back. Next month, I'm doing this on my Engwe Engine Pro 2, so there'll be a video to go with this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to swap round the current 1428 that I think's on there for an 1134. With the torque sensor, I'm going to add a 56-inch chain ring. I may have to change the chain on it. I will be buying a chain. So what do you need to do this? Well, first you need to purchase yourself, depending on whether you've got a 7-speed or an 8-speed, you need to get an 8-speed 1134, a 7-speed 1134 freewheel. You can purchase those off of Amazon. You can get those next day. I'll put a link into the one that I'm going to be using. So if you get a normal freewheel removing tool, they won't fit over the end of the wire. So what you have to do is get one specifically that's made for e-bikes, and I'll put a link into that in this as well. Remove that, swap that round. So you'll also want to get yourself a 56 tooth chain ring. And you'll also need to get a removal tool because you won't get it off otherwise. So I'll put a link into that. The one that I use, is from Alfred's, and it's cheap and cheerful, does the job. Swapping these two things out will totally change the way your bike rides. One of the benefits of this is you'll be able to put power into the bike. As it stands, ghost pedaling is just a waste of energy, because when you ghost pedal on an e-bike, especially with a cadence sensor, it cuts the power in. when you could actually be pedalling that power and reducing the amount that's absorbed from the battery. If you just change out the freewheel, you'll start ghost pedaling at around about 25 miles an hour. If you swap out both the chainring and the freewheel, you won't start ghost pedaling into the early 30s. So that's the difference swapping the two over makes. And again, this good for range. The less battery you're using, the more range you'll get from your battery. So not only are you increasing the speed of the bike, because if you're pedaling into it, you'll get a faster bike. You'll have a bigger range to pedal with, because the motor's cut out at certain rates anyway, depending on weight and terrain and everything else. The motor stops sort of helping you. So this allows you to get some exercise and put some power back into the bike. There's nothing more annoying than ghost pedaling, and there's nothing more energy sapping than ghost pedaling. It really, you're turning your legs around using energy and you're doing nothing. You know, and then you're drawing from the battery, which is unnecessary. So that's one of the whole reasons behind swapping these out. I did mine about 19, 20 months ago on my Engwe Engine Pro, and it changed the bike completely. It really did change the bike, and it was really worth doing. The reason I'm doing it on the 2.0, regardless of because I've not found any real ghost pedaling with that bike because of the way the torque sensor works. But I want to put more energy into the bike at higher speed. So that's why I'm swapping mine out. I'm putting an 1134 at the back, and I'm 8 speed, and I'm putting a 56 tooth at the front. The other thing that I'm hoping it'll do, because of the bigger range on the freewheel, and it's big with me, is this: I might be able to get rid of my throttle. I've been riding around with it without the throttle on, and as soon as I come to a reasonable hill and I have to start from that hill because I've had to stop because of traffic lights, it's still difficult, and I still find myself, oh, I need the throttle. I think Chinese manufacturers need to open up to the fact that that 6 km/h help thing with the throttle isn't going away. I know Himiway do a throttle that only goes up to 6 km/h, and it's all you need to get the bike going. Just to get the bike going. I mean, I'm hoping at some point a law come along where people with disabilities will get the full throttle thing, or we'll all get the full throttle thing. But looking at recent news on that subject, nothing's changed since the last meeting that they had, and that was a month ago. So who knows when that's going to come in. And now with the general election coming up, it could be another year, maybe even longer, before e-bike law gets changed. So again, this is why we do this. This is why I do this. You've probably seen other videos on this, but it's not been explained. Like I said, the easiest explanation for this is the bigger the chainring, the less revolutions you have to do on the front to get a revolution at the rear. And the freewheel gives you a bigger range of cogs, gears to mess around with, and this gives you more control over ghost pedaling, which if you change both out, I'll be surprised many of you will manage to get up to any sort of ghost pedaling on a flat surface. Downhill don't count. Anyway, that was an explanation about what ghost pedaling is, what's causing it, and how to resolve it. The cost is going to be a chain ring, which is about £50. I always use the Light Pro ones. They seem very common, they seem very reliable. You're going to be looking at about another £25 for the freewheel. The tool's going to cost you another £20 minimum for that. You need a tool for the front, for the chain ring, probably about £10 for that, and maybe a chain. Well, I'm going to experiment with that, so I'm going to buy a bigger chain and then I'm going to reduce it down to what I think it should be. But I buy a chain and they're about £15. So that's it. I've got a review of the Engwe Engine Pro coming because they sent me another one. Most of you that follow me know what happened to my other one. And I want to see what updates they've done to that bike, and then I'm going to do some videos comparing it to the Engine Pro 2.0. So subscribe if you want to follow what's going on, especially if you want to know how to do the chain ring and the freewheel, because I'll be doing a video on that in the next 6 weeks. Again, I'm sort of starved for time because I run a business, so you know, I do this as an hobby, and it's mainly to get more bums on seats. The more e-bikers I can convert out there, the better. It's the future, not your Teslas. Not anything that, you know, you need 200 times the battery to just go to the shops in, because more energy sapping. Have a nice day, everyone.